welcome to Something to Talk About again, thanks to our friends over at Kings and Tamuning. The subject today has requested kuddu. And so we are eating the fancy kuddu in the corner table here at King's. Thanks for joining us, and I want to introduce to you if you haven't heard her name or if you haven't heard their family name, it's about to become a household name, if not already. I want to introduce you Amanda and Evie Young. Hello.
Hi.
Hello. And this is Evie Young, and if you are just going, boy, that name sounds so familiar, you might have heard that as part of the legislative session, they just passed a bill and awaiting the governor's signature called the Evie Young Student Health Services Act. And thank you to Amanda for bringing that to the attention of Senator Mary Torres, that the research has been done to apply this act and this service to young patients like Evie Young Guam. You want to go ahead and hi, by the way.
Hi, Patty.
Hi.
I know. Last time I saw you was at Dusitani.
Yeah, we were doing one of the balls that it was for the Stay Well
Guam Diabetes Foundation.
Yeah, that was an awesome night. You can keep eating if you want. I want you to keep eating because the kuddu here is really good.
Yeah, that's our kids'
That's
favorite.
Your thing.
Yeah.
So, how did this all begin? You did clearly. I mean, what was the impetus?
Okay, well, actually,
let's set up the story.
Well, a big part of it is with her circumstance, having a life-threatening medical condition that will, of course, involve her. Her situations at school, and I had come across some information when I sat down and did her 504 plan, which is a meeting with the school staff that are relevant to her everyday dynamic at the school, and I found out that one of the things that they had was when we came across situations where she'd be going on a field trip, and the nurse usually, if it's just a class field trip, the nurse doesn't go with them. Yeah. So if there's an emergency situation and she's on a school field trip, who would be the person that would administer the emergency medication to resuscitate her, to bring her back to us? Mm-hmm. And they said there's no one, because the way the current laws are in place is it's only the school nurse who has the authority to do that.
Any kind of procedure.
So that could even be as simple as, say, like a child having a severe allergic reaction and they would need an EpiPen. Mm-hmm. If they were on a school field trip, or if the nurse was out sick that day, or just happens to be across campus and couldn't get to that child soon enough, no other personnel could administer that life-saving medication in order to, save their life. And so they would have to either call 911 and wait, and with those kind of things, it could be too late. And especially in Evie's case, a matter of minutes to get the kind of life-saving medication she would need if she was to go out would, that's scary. And that was a big thing and then I realized, oh, okay, well, what can we do? And so we had thought within her own 504 plan, what things that we could do to kind of like curtail that issue for the time being. And then I had even asked, well, is there something that I could do that, the nurses had brought up that they had been trying to get something passed for them to be able to train, specific staff that would be ideal for an emergency situation. Mm-hmm. So it could be, the teacher, because the teacher would be right there all the time.
Sure. And
then that way but they couldn't do that with that law kind of limiting that circumstance for them. Oh. So with this law, it's not that just any personnel can do it. Mm-hmm. A parent with a child who has a certain condition would have to actually request it, and then have a meeting with the nurse and maybe the principal and even their healthcare provider and the parent, and they would decide who would probably be the best fit for being like a second line of defense for an emergency situation. So then in that case, they would maybe approach the teacher and then they would ask the teacher, and the teacher would have to actually consent to it.
I see.
Yeah.
So you're not putting any burden or
Yes.
making it appear that
it's
they're
not
required.
Yeah. So it's all
voluntary, really.
Voluntary and consenting.
Yeah.
And so then it would be something that would have to be requested. It's not just something that would be automatic, but the law allows that capability.
Had there been any incidents that took place where it was that severe of a scenario?
Yes. And actually the nurse wasn't on campus, but she was attending to another emergency all the way across the campus.
Oh.
And she was already starting to go out, and they couldn't do anything. They had to just wait for the nurse, and for her it's a matter of seconds. And then when she found that out, because she is very much a part of her 504 too.
Yeah.
In our family, we're very big about having her take on her self-care is very important.
Self-care.
Yeah.
Self-care and having the responsibility of it. At 10 years old, Evie, how does it feel that so many people are talking around you on this topic of your condition, and a whole law has, been enacted or is about to be enacted? I'm assuming that the governor will sign it. Do you feel, it has your name on it? Not bad.
It makes me feel special.
Yeah, I bet.
And safe.
And safe? Why safe? Did it feel unsafe before?
That's because if the nurse wasn't there at school and something happened where I could die, I would just have to wait there, and the aides and teachers would have to just stare at me and watch me. And they couldn't do anything.
No. You're pretty smart and mature for 10 years old, huh? You said that the onus is really on her to know when. You've obviously had to. She had to learn at what stage that she might.
At 6 years old, we were already teaching her how to self-inject.
Yeah.
That was with the help of a insulin pen, which allows her to do a lot of the self-administration and dial in her dosage. So she does a lot of math, we look at food and we do math all the time.
Yeah.
Portions, based on the size of like a baseball or something is equivalent to this amount of carbohydrates, and so we do a lot of that anyhow every day, and she's had to do that at a very young age. So she's had to go through things that have forced her to mature very quickly, but we're very much a family that's, we see our responsibility is to guide our children to do what it is that they've got to do for themselves. And so, that we've taken a lot of what we've had to learn and then teach her so she can do it herself, because one day she will have to be on her own doing it.
And what does that feel like? There's always that sort of reality that's in your face, like she says that she feels more safe with this law in place because the difference is life and death.
Yeah.
That's a lot to take on when you're 10 years old, yes?
Yeah, I remember the first day back from the hospital, it coming to terms that she would have to do this for the rest of her life, and that was a hard thing to see your 6-year-old realize that it is a life or death thing, that it's not just because with her it's something she can't get rid of. It's and it wasn't preventable, so there was a lot we've had to heal through, and there's still a lot of healing there, but a big part of that has been in teaching and advocating, and awareness and education has been a big part of that healing process, is helping other people.
Helping other people.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you're helping other people?
Yes, there was this one time.
Excuse me, I had to sneeze in the middle of that great question. I apologize. I'm sorry, go ahead, sweetheart.
There was this one time that I was on the news, and this old lady she didn't like to take insulin or check her blood, and then when she saw me doing it, she said, if that little girl can do it, then I can too.
Oh, yeah, so that feels good, that you know you're helping people. Well, believe it or not, Evie is not the only child in her family. You've got 2 other children as well. Yeah. We're to talk about that family dynamic, but the bill again is just been passed by the legislature, and it was authored by Senator Mary Torres, and you were explaining that it's actually a copycat measure from another state.
Yeah, well, adapted to be applicable to Guam.
Yeah,
and,
okay.
But there was
not much difference between.
Because I saw that this measure could move along much easier if I just took the time and did my own research in it. It wasn't just having a meeting with a senator. It was also me in the background doing a lot of research, because I do a lot of research anyway, just for our own family.
Yeah.
And it makes me think of other families who may not have or take the initiative or have the access to information like that I've been able to access and get a hold of. And so if I can do that little bit and take that little bit of time,
it makes it an easier process.
Yes, it makes the process.
Well, thank you for that, because this one went right through the legislature without any problem. Listen, we're going to take our break here. When we come back, we'll talk about the young family. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Something to talk about. We're with Evie Young and her mom, Amanda. You have been out in the public and really the face of diabetes and childhood diabetes, juvenile diabetes.
Well, more specifically type 1.
Type 1 diabetes.
A big part of it is because of the misconception it has with other types of diabetes.
Yeah.
And that gets very much categorized with type 2, though it's very different, because type 1 is actually an autoimmune disease where the body actually attacked the pancreas and killed off the isolate cells that produce insulin. So her body no longer produces insulin. So her body actually did something to her in a way that it's kind of another form of like organ failure, per se, but it's non-preventable and it's not curable.
Right.
So
that's a much different.
It's a much different form of diabetes. It's just because it has to do with glucose absorption, it gets categorized with other diabetes. And
So I mean, she is in charge of controlling what she puts in her body and then how to make adjustments in order to be at an even place.
Right. Again,
and so there's a lot of science.
Right. There is. I have learned so much about, nutrition has always been something I've been interested in, and just a healthy lifestyle, which is why it was shocking to a lot of our friends when they found out she has diabetes.
Right.
And for us too, it didn't make sense. But then, having that little bit of passion for that lifestyle anyway really helped me understand just eating and nutrition and just everyday dynamics even more. Just there's so much science when it comes to the balancing of the glucose with insulin, and then there's certain foods that affect it, and then people are affected by certain foods too.
Right.
So what would affect her in her glucose absorption would be much different maybe than someone else who has the same condition.
Yeah. So we were just talking during the break, we were talking about the kind of foods that you eat and where you compensate for, like things when there's a special occasion where there's something that you want. So talk to me about your diet. What do you know about your diet?
I eat whatever I want.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much with type 1. She can eat like any other normal kid. Same thing. You just eat, mindfully and consciously. Same thing. The only difference is she has to give herself insulin for any carbohydrate. So if it's as healthy as an apple, it has carbohydrates. She has to give herself insulin.
I remember you telling me about that.
Yeah.
There's a misconception about there not being carbs in a piece of fruit.
Yeah.
And there are many fruits that have carbs.
Some of them have very little, and some of them actually may have a lot of carbohydrates but have a lot of fiber, because people don't realize that's another science behind it is fiber cancels out carbs. So when we do the math and we look at maybe a piece of bread when she has a sandwich, if she's having a whole wheat bread and it has, you know, let's say 12 grams of carbohydrates, but then there's, you know, say 3 grams of fiber, we'd actually minus 3 from the 12, and so then that would give you your actual carbohydrate count.
Yeah. So do you know right off the bat, like when you look at a spread like this, are you already doing the math on the foods that you would like to eat? Okay, so let's talk about, like we were talking about breakfast, having cereal in the morning. You can have a sugary cereal. You can have any other cereal, any kind of cereal that you want.
Well, mommy doesn't really allow that anyhow.
The sugar, but yeah.
Right. Well, but most cereals is actually a lot of sugar in it. So it's
but you're looking for the healthy options to the cereal.
Options usually. Just looking for one that has a lot more fiber in it, too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you'll eat a bowl of cereal. You were saying that once you eat a bowl of cereal,
I have to have something with protein.
Yeah. So you already know. So do you make these choices by yourself? Like, well, you have to when you're at school, right, or when you're away from your mom. You have to make these choices. Are you good at math then? Now you think?
I would think so, but she doesn't.
Yeah, you don't think that you're good at math? Well, nobody thinks that they're good at math. You have 2 other children, and I think that that's a story. There's another part of that story because you said at the very beginning, this is a family endeavor.
Yeah, I think for all types of diabetes, it is a family endeavor. It takes everyone being a big part of it because food is a very emotional process for everyone. It's where we do our celebrating. It's where we do our honoring. It's where we share our time together. You know, there's a lot of traditions and celebrations that are revolved around food, especially on Mom.
Yeah.
And you know, a big part of that that's hard is timing. So, you know, for her, it wouldn't be just as easy for her to just sit down and have the meal. She actually has to stop and check her glucose, figure out her
in the process of eating, like if you have a bowl of this, you know what the contents are, or she does have to stop at some point.
So an example would be like, say we're at a birthday party, and she would want to be able to enjoy sitting down with everyone at the same time and celebrating with them. So I would actually, you know, take the observation in seeing when the mom or the parent would bring out the cake and go, okay, she's gonna want to sit down with all the other kids, so let me just take a moment here, Evie, let's go do your check now and all that. So then by the time, you know, and then try and guess like how much of that are you going to eat, and figure all that out. And I'm already doing the calculations, so that way she's already set to go with all her adjustments and her dosages.
And it's not an issue.
And then it's not an issue. But then, you know, we get caught up in life, and sometimes I don't get a chance to do that, and then she might miss out. So then all the other kids have probably already sat together and eaten their cake, and she's doing it way after, and then waiting till she can go participate. So she misses out on a lot of things, and I think that happens a lot in school too, because that's a harder thing to do when you have so many other logistics going on and the timing of all that. So we've tried to, you know, kind of remedy that with her maybe leaving to the nurse's office a little sooner before lunch. But there are times where that doesn't work out either, and then she might, you know, miss recess because she's taken a little more time in doing her treatment. Yeah. So some might say that she misses out on those sweet little things in life.
Do you feel like you're missing out on sweet little things in your life sometimes?
I don't like sweets that much unless I really want one.
But Mom is using metaphor.
Do you think that you miss out on little things, some things with your friends, and how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel sad that I can't do what other people can do. Like, they can eat right away without thinking about the carbs or doing anything before it.
Yeah, the little things we take for granted, and you know, just like I said, a holiday meal, same thing. We're all sitting down together and doing all that. So sometimes we have to take a little time and just do all that beforehand, so that way she can sit with everyone and be with the family and participate.
Yeah.
And another thing too is, you know, it's funny. It's the dynamic. You're saying the dynamic with the sisters. You know how like you'd pick at somebody else's plate or whatever. Right. For her, it's a big issue because she has been dosed for exactly for what's on her
Oh, so then don't stick your fork in my bowl.
Yeah, and I've done it too, and she's been like, Mom. I'm like, but it looked good.
Well, talk to me about the other two children. It's something that they're living with as well. I mean, they're younger than she is.
Yeah. So I mean, the littlest one, she's, she says things too, like, when will I get it? And I'm hoping, like, I hope you don't, but we won't never know.
Yeah.
You never know, because it's not preventable and it's not curable, and it is a phenomenon with type 1. We don't really know, so we just have to be more vigilant. And because we know the signs and symptoms much easier now to spot, where before we didn't, because we were naive to those signs and symptoms until we've had to deal with it ourselves. We have to watch out for that, because it could happen, and it could just happen anytime. But I really hope they don't, because it's something that's been really hard to see her go through, and I wouldn't want any other child to go through it either, but it does happen.
In the end, though, Amanda, of the time that I heard you speak at the foundation dinner, I mean, it was such a moving story. Your all of your resources, emotional, physical, financial, I'm sure, is going into making a quality life over a situation that does not allow for you to have quality of life. And it's a battle, I'm sure, for you.
Yeah.
But that's your plan? It sounds like that's your plan?
I feel like there's no other way.
Yeah.
The other way is something that was a road to easily go down, and it was starting to happen right after her diagnosis. And my sister from another mister, Michelle Pierre, she was a big part of getting me out of that funk. That was hard.
It's
still hard. Sorry.
Yeah. Well,
she's to this day, it's been 4 years, and it's still.
Yeah.
And
do you just laugh at her when she cries at this one? She's like, I'm fine, I'm good. But you're a mother. You're a mother.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of guilt in the beginning, because like I shoulda, woulda, coulda. Why didn't I? Like how? And it was hard. I shut away a lot.
Yeah.
I liked social media was really hard to see, because it was hard to see people be normal. It was so hard, because I just didn't know like how to be at that point. It was such a shock, and it happened within a matter of minutes that our life changed instantly and drastically. So. And a big part of getting me out of that was Michelle saying, "You got to share your story. You could help so many other people."
Yeah.
So it's turning that adversity into advocacy.
Well, I tell you, then there's got to be some great self-satisfaction knowing that all of the thousands of people will have been a part of this push for the new law that I'm sure is. I know it's a mascara. Girl, I got you. I got you. Evie,
no,
I know it's burning your eyes.
It's not the heart.
I think we're going to leave it here. This has become a little bit of a show here. Thanks a lot. I appreciate you guys. We appreciate you, Evie. You're a famous girl. I'm so glad that I know you, and thanks to you, Amanda, for all the work that you've done for the community.
Oh, so very welcome, really. Yeah.
All right. That's it for Something to Talk About. We'll see you next time.